Howdy folks, Dreadshells here, and welcome back to World of Tanks. I have another American Scout game footage to show you guys here today, and we are going to be looking at the T49, formerly the Tier 8 American Scout tank, and now the Tier 9 American Scout tank, and we are here on a game on Malinovka. Now, in my time of coming back to World of Tanks, and I've been playing for about 3 weeks now. I've been back in the game. I've been noticing that scouts play a lot less of a vision role. I shouldn't say a lot less. Moderately less of a vision role and intelligence role for their team than they did before, at least as far as how I've seen the meta play out so far. They're a lot more of a combat role because now, because they're +2 matchmaking instead of +3. They have more hit points. At least the higher tier scouts have more hit points, and they generally have I should say more reliable guns as far as gun handling. A lot of the scouts got their penetrations nerfed, so that's unfortunate, and their DPM nerfed, which I don't like that they nerfed the DPM. I think that the penetration modification was needed, but I don't think the DPM nerf was needed. But that is what I think of the role of scouts that I've seen so far playing for the first 2 or 3 weeks back. I think that you have to be pretty much an anti-scout for the first third of a game on average, or an anti-medium. You need to be tactically conservative and kill the enemy scouts, or put yourself in a position to help kill the enemy scouts. Wait till they die, because usually they're very aggressive, including enemy mediums or some fast tank destroyers or heavies. There's really a lot of aggressive gameplay, and you just need to wait and help let those enemy players YOLO, basically. Let them get themselves killed, because if you try to play tactically early, generally more often than not, that will get you killed in the first few minutes of the game. So you just need to be cautious for the first part of the game, especially in a high tier game like this, in an open map with a lot of mobility on the enemy team. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, 4.5, 5.5, and 6. So basically almost half of the enemy team are really mobile and have decent to very good view range. So I'm going to be playing this spotting much more conservatively than I would normally, and I actually use a position that I almost never use here at the start of the game. Just a quick note, yes, I am still using the derp gun on the T49. I love my derp on the T49. I know that some of you guys will be wanting to know what my thoughts are on the 90mm. I know I can tell you that my thoughts on the 90mm pre-buff were that it was really bad because it only had heat ammo and high explosive ammo, if I remember correctly. But now that I think they've given it APCR, and has really good gun handling from what I could tell from the statistics when I looked it up in TanksDG. But I just love my derp gun on my T49 so much, it's hard for me to give it up. It's kind of my stress reliever tank when I am getting really frustrated in the game with RNG or the maps that I'm getting, or the teams and the way the games are going. I just hop into the T49, and nothing is more satisfactory than penning another scout or an RHM for 1,000 damage. So it's kind of my stress reliever tank, and I eventually will play this tank with the 90mm and get some gameplay and feedback for you guys on what I think of that gun. But for now, I am keeping the derp. So let's just start the game here. Sorry for that long ramble. So like I said, yeah, enemy players are in general really aggressive nowadays, now that I'm back, and especially now with so much mobility on the enemy team. There we go, we get the RHM Panzerkampfwagen spotted early, and we get one shot into him here before he's able to get down into the riverbed there and into cover. Get some nice early damage there on the Emil and the 704. And now that the RHM came up over here, I'm moving here, right? I can't stay in that trough and where those fences are anymore, because he will spot me if I stay there, and I'll just get wrecked by their snipers. So I need to get away. He ends up dying because he peeks in front of our gun line here. My team knew he was coming because I spotted him early. And now I'm going to come up here initially just to see if I can spot anything in their counter perch here over in F7. I'm sitting in our perch here in C5, so generally you can spot tanks here if they move or fire because you're just so close to them. Decide to take a blind fire in there here and see if I get lit, and I do, so I know absolutely that someone is in that bush, which is not surprising. It's quite expected. So not sure if we hit anybody there in that bush yet, but we'll find out if in the post-game stats. But now that I know that there's someone in that bush here, I'm not going to pause the game here. I'm not going to drive across this way right here, right? Because anyone who is sitting in this bush here will spot me crossing, and I potentially will get shot from their base snipers back here, maybe once by them themselves, and I also can get shot by any other tanks that are up here on the upslope to the top of the hill here in C0 and D0. So I want to take a wide approach here, and I honestly probably should have taken an even wider approach here, probably back where this fence line is, because I don't want to get spotted by these guys coming up to my approach here initially. I want to pop up here, and I want them to be surprised that I'm here. I don't want them to be pre-aimed on me and make it easier for them to hit me. And my goal here is, after getting initially the spots into the field and seeing that the enemy is being really aggressive down here on the water line, I can't really play the vision game in the field anymore. I definitely can't go to the traditional bush here in F4 and F5 anymore. You either go to that bush right away in a game, or you don't go there at all until the very late game, depending on where the positions of the teams are, because if you wait to go to this bush late, it's very likely that the tanks here in F7 will spot you, or the tanks down here where the 704 is in H6 will spot you. So never go to this bush like a minute or two after the fact of the start of the game. You'll usually always get spotted and die before you can get back into cover. So now I'm relocating to the next vision progression point on the map here, which is over here in C7. I'm going to roll scout this ridge. Unfortunately, don't get a pen there on the bat chat. I knew that the bat chat was probably still here because he was last spotted here. It's a really common position for scouts or vision tanks to sit here. And so right now I can actually be really aggressive here since there's no artillery. Just keeping in mind of not getting shot from this ridge line here to my left, but I'm not spotting anyone that high up. There are some tanks down here in E0, but I wanted to push this bat chat off so he wasn't spotting our team that are climbing up the hill. You always want to be doing, especially in scout tanks, but in any tank that you play, whether it's a tank destroyer, heavy or medium, you always want to be playing in symmetry with your team, right? You need to be paying attention to what your teammates are doing and trying to do the best that you can to support them. You need to be thinking, okay, so my teammates are going to be climbing the hill because they're going to be engaged and brawling here at the top of the hill, right? Potentially. And if there's a vision tank sitting here where this bat chat is, he's going to be spotting my team as they approach up, right? And he's going to be giving everyone that's sitting here and back here where this TVP is, and anyone potentially sitting right here just at the base of the hill, lots of shots into my team. So I don't want this bat chat to sit here for free. I want to push him off. I want to keep him spotted so my teammates can shoot him, and I want to try and do my own damage to him. I did that first shot of damage myself because he was not expecting me to be there, and none of the enemy team, I don't think were expecting me to be there because they weren't pre-aimed on me. And I was able to get a free shot into this guy and get him out of the fight so my teammates don't take a lot of damage climbing the hill. And that's just one thing that you can do for your team in a scout in an open map. Always trying to be doing what I call vision screening. You always want to be providing a vision bubble and screen ahead of your team or to the flank of your team so that they have shots and aren't taking damage from unspotted enemy tanks. Peeking a little bit high there, that was really bad and a really bad misplay there. We do get some assistance damage for it, but that was a really bad peek. A lot of enemy tanks could have been pre-aimed for me right there after I initially got spotted. There we go, we get the Bulldog spotted there, just because I went a lot wider and the back of his tank was not concealed in the bush. When you sit in those bushes, that's what I like to try and do when I'm surfing this ridge. Generally, tanks like to sit in this bush, right? But because these bushes are lined up this way at a little bit of a horseshoe, they're not very lined up this way. So if you drive out far enough wide and you don't have any enemy tanks here that can shoot you and you're able to do that safely, you actually can easily spot anyone that's sitting up here in this bush because the back of their tank will be exposed beyond the bushes. And so you'll be able to spot them. And so we were able to get that Bulldog killed and out of the fight. And so now we've taken out a lot of the enemy's vision and position here in the middle. There's only the Cannon Jagdpanzer here that we know of, and potentially the FV-4202. So right now I'm actually going to be really aggressive here. My team have not encountered any enemies on the hill, so they're able to take the hill for free. And this is what this position here in E8 can do for you if you have good enough view range. You need about 475 to 500 meters view range to be able to spot enemy tanks that are moving down here on this house in H6, so you need pretty good view range. And we get a really nice shot into the side of the mouse, and we light him on fire. And he wasn't using an automatic fire extinguisher, so we got a couple of ticks of damage. For a second there, I thought he was going to burn a lot longer than that, but unfortunately he had a manual fire extinguisher, or perhaps a no fire extinguisher and a good fire crew. But right now we're putting shot after shot into this mouse, and as long as I stay below or this ridgeline and keep these trees in between me and here, these guys actually can't spot me, or I think actually maybe they can spot me if they crest high enough. But these guys, the enemy tanks that are sitting back here in E0, they have been displaying that they're playing really conservatively and really passively. So after I did not get spotted for the first shot, and I did not get spotted crossing here initially into this position, I know that there isn't anyone up here, obviously, of course, but I also know that there's no one back here in this rock cluster back here, and I know that there isn't anyone sitting here. So if there is anyone sitting on the back side of this ridge here where this Cannon Jagdpanzer was last spotted, then he is tucked in underneath this ridge and he's not cresting anyway. And if he does crest, it's really easy for me to drop back down and get into cover back into these houses here. So this position is really powerful for spotting this here. If you're ever wanting to figure out how to progress after you've won the hill from the north spawn, this position here is really key. Working this middle part of the 7-8 lines, driving enemies off this F7 perch, and then getting spots in onto the east house here, or I should say the south spawn down here. And then once you get all these snipers eliminated, then you can start working the 0 line here and roll scouting and getting side shots in on them there. But enough rambling, let's keep going. Sorry about that. Keeping an eye on my left there, seeing what the enemy tanks are doing back there. But just quite content here to sit here and keep this mouse spotted and keep shooting him here. And I mean, this is why I like the derp, right? I mean, yeah, the 90mm is probably more reliable and more consistent, of course, but I wouldn't be able to do that with the 90mm. I wouldn't be able to reliably do damage to the mouse. And this is a really bad peak right here. And I'm going to stop and explain why. I should not have peeked there at all to look for a shot. I should have used third person before I tried to peek to see if I had a shot on the pattern at all. He's not exposing himself enough for me to get a reliable shot on him. I have a derp gun. I have a really long aim time. And it's very unlikely that I'll be getting a shot in on like half of the top of his turret there. And it was also a really bad peek because I did not keep the trees and the bushes in between me and him. Basically, I should have stayed on the left side here where these two trees are, or I should have come up here a little bit more to the right, because you can see here that there's a gap in between here, between these trees and this tree and this bush formation, and you can get spotted by enemy tanks that are sitting here on the backside in E0. So that was a really bad positioning mistake on my part, and I'm going to pay for it right here. And I get smacked by the 704 that was sitting down here in the south base there. And right now, I'm actually going to be making a misplay, a very huge tactical misplay in the game, if I remember correctly, right here. I am making a huge misplay, and you always need to be looking for things that you could have done better. Not just micro-tanking, how you aimed, when you shot, and all that, but tactical position. I make a huge misplay here by not going back to where at least this Pershing is, or maybe down into E3, or maybe back here into B2 and B3, because it's really obvious that the enemy have destroyed the last of our base defenders here, and they have at least two, if not three tanks that will be pushing into our base. And our team have this side of the map under control. I mean, yeah, they have quite a bit of firepower that they need to kill out, but all my team are relatively really healthy, and they have a decent, well, some of them have decent armor, and they're able to outtrade any enemy lower tier enemy tanks here really easily, especially since we pre-spotted them. But I make a really bad misplay here by not going back and help defend cap and spot the cap for resets, and we end up it ends up making the game a lot closer than it needs to be. And instead, what I choose to do is I try to help push the flank here. And this is a classic example. Do I help attack or do I help defend, right? That happens quite often in games. And in this case, I should have gone back and helped defend, if at least not for shots, at least for vision. And I probably could have done both quite easily because the T49 is really good at that. But unfortunately, I'm leaving this Pershing out here all alone, and he doesn't have any vision support. And looking back in hindsight, this was a really bad play, helping give vision support for my team as they attack through the south there. Some pro driving there, hitting the rock there. But now it's all up to the Pershing, right? I've left the win or the loss up to this Pershing by him being able to spot our the enemy tanks capping here, and now they're double capping us, right? We're only 30 seconds away from a loss because I was deciding to help attack here and made a really bad decision. It looks like our team got one reset in there. There we go. And they were able to kill the STRV that was capping, but I should be the one that's back there spotting and not the Pershing. And I actually felt really bad after the end of this game. I was like, wow, I made a really dumb decision. And now I'm realizing my mistake, but it's way too late. I can't make any difference over here other than maybe getting a last hurrah shot in here if my other teammates don't get shots in. But the Pershing does an amazing job. Shout out to you, Pershing, the RPS gunner. You are the one that saved this game, and it would have been a loss if it had not been for his spots and helping our team get the resets in here. But now that they got the resets in here, the enemy team do not have a chance of winning now. Unfortunately, because of the troll side Russian armor there, I wasn't able to get the kill on the 704, but we do help get him spotted there, and our team were able to finish him there. And now it's just the Canon and Jagdpanzer left. Willing to take a hit from him because I have the hit points. And the Canon and Jagdpanzer has really soft armor, and I'm easily able to do that amount of damage to him, probably without having to worry about getting to his side. I probably could have done it to his face, but I decided to take a little bit more of a side angle to make sure I would kill him in one shot. Because if I didn't, then he could actually kill me easily, since with his reload before I reloaded again. So yeah, I thought this was a really good game to show you guys of some good decision making that you can do as far as positioning yourself with your team, and then showing you guys some really bad decision making and why it was bad and how not to do it. I made some good decisions and some really bad decisions in this game, but overall, I was able to contribute a decent amount to the outcome of this battle. I was actually thinking I would actually get more assistance damage out of this game than I did, but it turned out that the enemy team were quite more aggressive here in pushing our base than I expected, and that was the correct play for them. They weren't going to win this game by fighting and killing all of us. They were the only chance they had at winning was by capping us. So props to the enemy team for trying to make that play. But yeah, T49 here on Malinovka. I still use the derp gun. I love my derps, and like I said at the start of the game, maybe down the road, I probably will be using the 90 millimeter eventually. But for now, this is my stress reliever tank, and it will stay my stress reliever tank when the game is giving me lots of RNG, missed shots, bounces, positioning, the map rotation that I'm getting, and all that, and how the games are going. So. I want to thank you guys for watching this game, and hopefully you got a good idea of the progression of vision on how to spot from the north spawn on Malinovka. I think I've made another video in the LTTB quite a while back, but the concepts still apply. If I can find that video, I'll link it in the info icon on the top right hand corner of the screen rather right now, and you can look at that game as well, and that will show you the vision progression that you can do from Malinovka from the north spawn. Generally, you can. I never play this G3 bush here in the center of the field unless it's mid to low tier, because tanks just have way too good vision and they'll spot you early most of the time. You can use this traditional E4 bush, of course. That's always very common. There's about 3 different bushes you can use there. The further up, more aggressive. Just keep in mind that you can get spotted from E7. And then once spots dry up there, I generally relocate back up here to where I did here in C7, start roll scouting this ridge. Also, an early play that you can do is drive straight up here to A8 and A9 at the top of the hill, and you can spot the enemy as they approach and come out of their spawn here. If you look at the minimap, come up here, and there's a tree up here in A9, and maybe I'll show that in another video that you can use to spot their approach as well. But from there, progressing through the middle here, you guys saw how I worked that. This knoll here in D8 and in E8 is really key. First, you need to drive the enemies away from F7, and then using this knoll here is really good for getting rid of their base defenders that are set back up here on the H line and on the 0 line. So the whole goal is to win this E8 knoll, and you will quite easily win the rest of the 0 line and the H line. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy hunting on Malinovka in your scouts, and take care.